My wife cheated on me in my bed, but when I filed for divorce, her sugar daddy set everything up so that I am to blame. I am 35 years old, and today I discovered that my wife, Sarah, who is 31, has been unfaithful in our own bed. Right now, I am holed up in my father's old hunting cabin trying to figure out my next steps. I feel completely shattered and worthless. The rage inside me is overwhelming. My entire life has just been turned upside down and I have no one to talk to. The one person I thought I could rely on has betrayed me. I scared the hell out of 3 people, including myself. If the police aren't looking for me right now, I consider myself lucky. If they are, I'll deal with it when the time comes. I work in construction, specifically in demolition. My crew and I travel frequently, and I had been away for 12 days out of the 16 I was scheduled to be gone due to rain. It's tough to blow up wet structures, so I decided to catch a flight back home until we could resume work. My flight landed at midnight, and wanting to surprise Sarah, I didn't inform her I was coming. I drove the hour from the airport to our house. 7 years ago, Sarah found a lovely piece of land far from any other homes through her job in real estate. 3 years later, I finished building our house, which we have cherished ever since. We have a 3-car garage, so any cars parked outside are unusual. Seeing a white sedan I didn't recognize made my heart sink. I knew immediately. Even though I hadn't noticed any issues in our marriage, we hadn't fought, our intimacy was great and frequent. I somehow knew what I would find inside. If the car belonged to a relative, she would have told me. Part of me hoped it was a female coworker who had too much wine and needed to sleep it off, but that was highly unlikely. I sat outside the house for at least 20 minutes, thinking things through. I parked my car inches from the driver's side of the sedan next to a retaining wall. Whoever owned it would not be leaving without my say or breaking a window. I turned off my car and entered through the back door via the deck. I have a concealed carry permit for a Beretta, which I holstered before getting into my car at the airport. I wasn't afraid for my life, but I was afraid of losing my temper and doing something regrettable. Walking into my house, everything was quiet at first. I thought no one was home, but with a finished meal for 2 on the table and a sink full of dishes, I knew something was up. I calmly walked down the hall to our bedroom and slowly turned the knob. I pushed the door open but didn't hear any commotion or movement. The room was pitch black. I walked over and turned on the bathroom light. When I turned around, there was Sarah, completely naked, lying on top of some naked guy I had never seen before. I was crushed. It felt like a ton of bricks had been dropped on my chest. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I knew they were pointless. I pulled out my phone and began recording. I walked around the bed, filming the heap of bodies in front of me. It began to sink in that my marriage was over. I realized all our property would be divided evenly, even though I had been 100 faithful. I suddenly realized the house I built with my own hands would have to be sold when we divided assets in the divorce. Being physically betrayed felt worse than any pain I could have imagined. Knowing I was about to be financially gutted too nearly made me lose my mind because it seemed so unfair. But I knew I was done with her and would never touch her defiled body again. I was disgusted by what I saw, but mostly at Sarah. In my mind, she had gone from sweet, devoted wife to a complete stranger in a matter of moments. Neither of them moved at all. I was fairly certain they were both passed out. The twins are now in their 40s, and the grandkids are all teenagers and older. Christmas has become a week-long celebration every year. From Christmas through New Year's, we gather on the farm. We cut down a tree together after everyone arrives. Then we decorate, cook, play, and celebrate as a family. Alice and her husband, Mike, have been a part of this tradition since I bought the farm. I am determined not to tell anyone about my diagnosis until after the new year. If I told Alice, she wouldn't be able to keep it a secret, and I don't want to put Mike in a position where he has to lie to his wife. I want the kids and grandkids to enjoy the week. We'll have plenty of time to cry and prepare in a few weeks. Sarah's presence this week will just be a minor detail in the long run. Frankly, I don't care about her nearly as much as the rest of the family. Financially, things are quite interesting. Sarah and I met and got married after we were both well established in our careers and financially secure. She had a good job with a great pension and 2 inheritances in a trust. Early on, we agreed, at her insistence, not to disclose our entire worth to each other. We also have a prenup where any property or trust that predated the marriage and any income from those resources are not considered marital property again, at her insistence. I provided both properties, housing with utilities, and covered travel, food, and fuel. Essentially, I supported her 100. Her income and wealth were spent entirely on herself. She bought her car, clothes, personal travel, and cosmetic surgery. She's a very beautiful woman on the outside, but has shown herself to be quite ugly on the inside. A few days after I received my diagnosis, I announced my retirement from the nonprofit where I worked. Knowing what I know now, I noticed Sarah seemed a bit uncomfortable. I can guess why I'd be around more often. Tomorrow is my last day of work, and then I'll be focusing on spending time with my family. I gave the camera server info to my lawyer and granted him access from his office. So, I don't know if Sarah and Brad have had any more activities, but I would assume they have. At this point, I don't care. I know who I am and what I'm worth, and Brad is a significant step down. As flashy as Brad is, I'm low-key. I drive a 15-year-old pickup truck. I like jeans, t-shirts, and coveralls in the winter. I know for a fact that Brad doesn't have anywhere near the wealth Sarah thinks he does. How do I know? Since the trust has invested in his business, I get quarterly financial reports. I don't tell anyone how much I have. That's between me and my accountants. But let's just say the trust has been growing for 30 years. I live a modest life, and there's enough for my great-great-grandchildren to enjoy the farm and have their education paid for. Once Sarah realizes what she's lost, that will be her reckoning. I just won't be around to see it. December got really busy. We did our usual social rounds these last weekends. Brad was at one of the parties. It was hard not to keep an eye on Sarah and him. I don't think they noticed. With being so busy and wrapping up everything at work, I've had an easier time keeping it together. Sarah hasn't expressed anything that would lead me to conclude that she knows I know. I'm not proud of this, but I still sleep in the same bed with her. I've been selfish with her lately. I feel like I'm using her, but she's apparently been using me for at least the better part of this year. I'm not as honorable as many of you have made me out to be. I hate this small amount of deceit, so don't worry about Sarah getting everything, because she won't. The trust is in great hands. Since the house was going to be sold, I did not care about any damage to it. I pulled out my .44 Magnum and just looked at both of them betraying me in my own bed. For a second or two, I contemplated shooting her, knowing those bullets would pass right through and kill him as well. But I came to my senses and realized neither were worth getting the electric chair over. Despite the hurt I was feeling, I knew I might want to keep on living after all was said and done. So I pulled back the hammer of my gun, lifted it into the air, aiming to my upper right, and fired off 2 rounds into the ceiling. They both woke up instantly. Sarah scrambled to push herself off the guy, and he shoved her to the floor before locking eyes with me. Fear doesn't quite capture the look in his eyes compared to the sheer terror in Sarah's eyes. He looked almost calm. She tried to tell me it wasn't what it looked like, so I fired a round through the bedroom closet door. She shut up real quick while he still hadn't said a word. They were each seated on opposite sides of our bed, the sheet pulled up to their necks. I asked the guy who he was, and he said his name was Peter. I asked Sarah how they knew each other, and she explained he owned his own real estate company. Then I asked how long the cheating had been going on, because I had been completely clueless that Sarah was cheating. She had the nerve to claim that was the first and only time they had slept together. So I fired 2 rounds into the bed's headboard between them. They both began crying and begging me to stop. So I asked the question again. To my surprise, Peter answered 6 months. It pissed me off, but at least I knew the truth. I asked Sarah when she stopped loving me, and through tears she lied and said she never stopped. I fired 2 rounds into the bathroom on her side of the bed, and she began screaming as glass from the mirror shattered all over the counter and floor. I told her she was a lying, worthless person and that I was done with her lies. She was clearly having a panic attack with good reason, but at that moment I didn't care. I asked Peter if he was married. He replied that he was. I asked if he had children that would miss him. He swallowed before admitting he had 2 kids. I told him I truly appreciated him showing me that Sarah is unfaithful before we had kids together. But I asked him if having sex with a cheating woman was worth losing his wife and kids over. He begged me not to tell his wife. I told him to shut up because at that moment she had about a 50 chance of ending up a widow. For the next 15 minutes, I paced at the foot of the bed with my gun drawn, just trying to think. I knew holding them there against their will could be deemed as taking hostages. I knew I would have to eventually let them go. I told Sarah to get up and get her car keys. I told Peter to leave my property immediately or the coroner would be taking him away. The fact that he had no clothes on seemed secondary at the moment. He got in his car and sped away before I counted to 25. I went back inside where Sarah had put on a robe and was seated at the kitchen table. I went to the bedroom, picked up her cell phone, and brought it to her in the kitchen. I asked if she wanted to call her parents or her sister to pick her up. She refused. I even asked if she'd like to call the police. I think she anticipated us discussing things to clear the air, so she said no. She began to try and explain, but I stopped her and told her we were done forever as far as I was concerned. I explained that our home was no longer her home and she needed to get in her car and drive anywhere that wasn't our house. I explained I no longer felt any love for her at all after what she'd done, and that there would be no second chances. She began to apologize, cry, and plead. 2 rounds fired into the double oven and 1 into the fridge brought blessed silence. Having your nearest neighbor over 2 miles away has its benefits. I explained to Sarah that at that moment I didn't care if I lived or died, and that she had completely destroyed me with her actions. I told her that all the love I ever had for her turned to hate the minute I saw her and Peter naked together. If I could have erased her from my memory, I would have. I told her I was barely maintaining my composure with the feelings I had of loathing her. I said it would be best if she went to the garage, got in her car, and drove away forever. Through tears, she went out to the garage, got in her car, and left. That was about 5 hours ago. Realizing I might have committed a crime or two with my reaction, I didn't want to deal with any cops that might show up. I turned off everything and locked the doors before going out and getting into my car again. My dad owns a fishing cabin that he and his buddies use fairly often. I drove there and used the hidden spare key to let myself in. It was far too early to call anyone when I got there. I decided I needed a drink, and I'm about a quarter of the way through a bottle of my father's Balvenie scotch. Dad is going to be pissed about that until I tell him what Sarah did. Plus, I'm pretty sure it's the bottle I bought for his birthday last month. I really don't know what to do. Most people seem to be trying to figure out if their spouse is cheating. I already know the truth. Well, I know as much of the truth as I want to know because the reasons for infidelity all ring hollow. I want a divorce. I want it in my favor and as fast as I can get it. She doesn't have the option to pick me ever again. I'm a human, not a carnival prize. I want to remove her from my life and burn any reminder of her. I don't want to ever see or hear from her again. Can everything be taken care of by lawyers? I have money to get things started. What I don't have is the time, energy, and patience to deal with this nonsense. 8 years of marriage down the drain, 8 years that I now consider one huge lie because after what I just saw, how can I accept anything she has ever said to me as truth? 8 years of my life wasted on an evil, lying fraud. Part of me wishes I had shot them both and just taken my own life, but that might be the scotch talking. Jesus, I have to get tested just to make sure she didn't give me anything. Actually, I've pissed away a decade on her now that I think about it. Her actions have invalidated my life and negated any value my time with her had. The only thing I will take from this marriage is that honesty and loyalty are things of the past. The only thing forever about any relationship anymore is herpes. That is forever. Love and marriage are all lies. I'm really down right now. Some people are probably already viewing me as some knuckle-dragging Neanderthal for responding with violence and threats. I also know some will give me grief for using one of my guns. I didn't shoot anybody, and the bed sheets were already soiled before I fired a shot. If bullet holes reduce the price the house can be sold for by a few thousand, I can live with that. I just can't deal with this. Part of me wants to just eat a damn bullet and give up. The life I had is over and it isn't coming back, even if I wanted it to. People are going to say I dodged a bullet, ironically, not having kids with Sarah and finding out she's disloyal. It doesn't feel that way right now. I go from crying uncontrollably to rage like I've never known. Either I face this or just end it all, and right now the second choice seems like the better option. Maybe if I pass out and get a little sleep, things won't seem as bad, but I doubt it. The weather forecast looks like things will be clearing up enough to work in a few days, so I'll need to be on a plane the day before. I don't like the region we're working in for various reasons, but part of me just wants to stay there when the job is done and not come back. Part of me wants to figure out where I want to start over, if I even want to deal with starting over. How do I decide which lawyer to get? Is there a rating system online for legal assistance? I hate damn lawyers, members of the scummiest profession. Now I have to find the most hardball lawyer I can find. Nothing is going to remove this heartache anytime soon. What the hell am I supposed to do? What's the point of doing anything? The person I was focused on giving my all to is gone forever, and tonight I learned she never existed. I wasn't perfect by any means, but I was faithful. I was never abusive. She'd never heard me really yell until tonight. I was a good husband. I liked being married and faithful, but for every good guy out there, some woman is just waiting to get her claws into him so she can ruin his life for her gain. To hell with this life, my soon-to-be ex-wife, and relationships. I'm just rambling now. Guess I'll go to bed. When I wake up, I guess I'll call my parents and fill them in on what went down. I'm just in shock, and I've never had heartache like this in my life before. Maybe tomorrow I'll feel better. Update? I'm sure some will say what I did went too far, was over the top, or whatever. It seems the law agrees with those people. This update will be a joy for the anti-commenters, so let me get this out of the way first, so those people can be overjoyed with what I'm facing. I was arrested for communicating threats, felonious assault, assault with a deadly weapon, and a few misdemeanors or felonies that do not really matter. If convicted of the felonies, even with no criminal record, if found guilty, I could get over 25 years behind bars. I am not likely to be sentenced to that long a time in prison, but it is possible. Amazingly, if I had actually shot Peter and/or my wife in a fit of rage, I would probably be looking at less time. Peter went to the police instead of to his wife to confess. He admitted to the cops about being found with a married woman, but he apparently managed to get some sympathy from the police. The deputy that took his statements was one of the sheriffs who showed up to arrest me the next day. Everything went peacefully with that, as I did not resist in the least. In hindsight, I think getting me charged was a preemptive strike by Peter because the judge at my arraignment forbade me from having any contact with Peter or any of his family members, so I have yet to contact his wife in any way, shape, or form. But by getting me arrested, he accomplished a couple of other things. I informed my job of the charges, which would not allow me to leave the state. They went into panic mode because my job is so specialized, it took them 2 weeks to find someone with the same training and experience. But now I'm looking for a job. That certainly threw a wrench into getting lawyers. Before I could even think about getting a divorce attorney, I had to focus on a defense attorney. I was served divorce papers 2 days ago. It is apparent my wife is going to try and take me for everything. She and I have not talked since that night. She has called and texted, but I have not read, answered, or responded to anything. I hate her guts. I am never getting over this. I am not going to be able to move on. I am not getting anything close to my life back. I have been staying with my parents. They have been awesome and very supportive, but this situation I have gotten myself into, there is not much anyone can say right now. Everyone is so focused on the criminal charges I am facing and not going to jail. The fact I have lost my wife and future has been put on hold, so to speak. Even after getting divorce papers, I have heard my mom crying for me in private. This is destroying my parents as well. They should not be worrying their son will be spending time behind bars. They should be focused on their retirement and enjoying life. I guess I have not just ruined my own life, but I will be damned if someone did not destroy mine. I spend most days holed up in my childhood room, waiting for the other shoe to drop. I have reason to believe that my wife is assisting Peter or the police against me in criminal court. She sure as hell is not obstructing anyone, that is for sure. Again, I have not talked to her, so I do not know what is going on in her head. But if she hates me for what I did, I do not know as much as I hate her. I guess she is giving me what I deserve. I am sorry I cannot give a better update. Those who always fall in the leave and divorce them camp will be happy to know that will be happening come hell or high water. I just do not know if I will be doing it as a free man or if it will happen while I am behind bars finishing my sentence. I was talking with my cousin the other night, and he said something to the effect about when I start dating again. He meant nothing by it, but it was just so... I cannot even explain it. Like, forget what my wife did to me and ever having trust in any woman again. I have not even started to ponder that, and then it occurred to me if worst comes to worst, my next date could be with some guy named Jerome. My lawyer is trying to actually win my case, not just keep me out of jail. I appreciate that, and that is what I need to happen. But I cannot do prison. If I am convicted, even without jail time, my career is done for. But prison, I cannot endure. I have been in shock since the moment I turned the lights on and saw my wife lying naked on top of another man. This whole incident just keeps getting worse and worse. I feel like I am watching a movie but cannot stop, even though I am disgusted. This sounded a lot clearer in my head than it looks typed out, but that was the best I could do under the circumstances. My life is utter hell right now, and cheating is 100 to blame. Update: I will try and explain what has happened since my last update, even though I know I will give incorrect legal terms and words in the process. But from what I was told, it is a federal law for the prosecution and defense to present all evidence and potential witnesses before a trial. There was a reason my lawyer kept the footage of my soon-to-be ex-wife and Peter cheating a secret. It was not like a trial, more like a hearing, but there was a judge presiding. My lawyer actually introduced a USB drive as evidence but had the footage on a tablet. Long story short, Peter either did not know I had proof or forgot I had told him I did. I remember putting my phone away after recording them before I pulled my gun, so he and Sarah never saw a phone. He refused to testify and the charges were dropped. His father is a retired judge and he is a business owner. He couldn't have that entered into evidence and seen by the public from a trial with his name attached to it. So, I truly dodged a bullet. My lawyer is almost certain she could have gotten a jury to find me not guilty, but no charges or trial is even better. Peter left the courtroom before I was allowed to go. As soon as I turned my phone on, I got notifications about missed texts and calls from a random number I assumed to be Sarah. I did not respond to anything because I did not read or listen to anything. But I was sure she had just found out I had video evidence. She was either trying to make peace or war. Her lawyer could talk to my lawyer, and no, I still have not communicated with her in any way, shape, or form. The moment I saw her cheating on me, she was dead to me. If I want to talk to the dead, I will have a seance. I have a very reputable divorce attorney, and he was the person I was first trying to call after charges were dropped. Obviously, the footage will be needed in divorce court, so I cannot go show it to Peter's wife not yet anyway. I would think she would hear about things through the grapevine, but who knows? He probably made some sort of preemptive strike and told his wife something just in case, but I highly doubt he made a full confession. My parents were relieved. I called them on vacation to tell them the good, unexpected news. We all were expecting it to go to trial. Nobody truly expected that hearing to end things on the criminal front. Now I focus on the divorce. My lawyer has my wife's filed divorce paperwork. It is not going to be the cakewalk my soon-to-be ex-wife thought it would be. As of right now, she is living in the house. That puts me at a disadvantage, but my lawyer is hoping to negate that with some filed paperwork. I do not want to move back into that house. I would never want to live there after witnessing what I saw. Plus, I heard it needs some repairs and new appliances. But honestly, I do not want her to have it either. With housing prices through the roof, I want it sold outright as well as the land. She should not get it, if for no other reason than being the one who broke up the marriage. If she wanted to keep living there, she should have kept her legs closed. Actions have consequences, and if she thinks getting some strange D is worth losing a house over, she really should not be in real estate. On the job front, I plan to use this coming week to either get my old job back or get a new job. I do not want to knock anyone out of a job, especially in such a specialized field, but I have to pay lawyers to do things I never wanted to. I know whoever replaced me cannot have the experience and knowledge I do, in addition to knowing the team. I do not think I will be unemployed either way for very long. I never thought I would say I will be glad to get back to work, but the last few months have not been a vacation. I just need something to focus on now besides the divorce, and I want to try and forget that messed up night. I'm probably lucky I am not dead, and I'm very lucky I am not behind bars. But the whole situation just pisses me off. Not just the money pissed away on legal fees, the wasted time, the words I believed and now know are lies. The deception I never knew her. I couldn't have. And to think I behaved like an idiot over someone I never knew is disturbing. I mean, if you want to go postal and beat the hell out of someone over a worthy, loyal, loving woman, have at it. But to go crazy over someone who lied and never cared? Not worth a single punch, and certainly not worth the gunfire. Learn from my mistake. It is not worth it. If people could just be honest with themselves and others, that would be great. My soon-to-be ex-wife keeps reaching out to communicate. The time to communicate was before she gave any part of herself to another man. I want to start over somewhere not too far away from my parents, but far enough away to not run into my soon-to-be ex-wife or her affair partner. I hate big cities, but small towns have their own issues. I make great money. Well, I did and will again. Just starting over with new everything after the last couple of months sounds so appealing. I just cannot think of anywhere I want to live. I just know now I do not want to live here. I'm so glad we did not have children, or this experience would be far worse. It is such a comfort to be able to ghost her and move on without a child forever connecting us. And I love kids. I would still love kids one day, but thank God I did not have any with a woman who could do that to me. At least I know I can have a life again, a career again. I am really down on this whole thing called life at the moment, but knowing I have freedom and opportunity gives me hope. I can move on from her as a huge mistake in my life, a tragedy of epic proportions. I know I need therapy after all of this and what I did. I have an appointment scheduled in 2 weeks to start individual counseling. I already know I will get blasted over anger issues, but I need to hear it, and I need someone to help me put my life back together after everything came unhinged. What I did was messed up. I admit that. I can only better myself going forward. I cannot change who I was in the past. Final update: I've been pondering for days how to even begin to explain what has happened and where things stand. I owed it to those who have given me good advice since my screw-up to give an update, but just telling what has happened and all the details in drama would take way too long. Our lawyers began corresponding. My soon-to-be ex-wife's side kept requesting she and I talk, and I kept saying no. Our side tried pushing the negotiations and getting the ball rolling on our side. Every time the house and property got mentioned, my lawyer felt they were acting twitchy, whatever that means. But they still wanted to meet face-to-face and talk, saying it was very important for both of our futures going forward, apart or together. I still wanted to say no, but my lawyer pretty much told me I would have to see her in court eventually, and we should meet. They knew we had infidelity evidence and what it was, but had not seen it. My lawyer wanted to know exactly what they would say and what angle they were playing. I just did not want to see her or hear her voice. They were not willing to do a group text, so we met. We met in a conference room at my lawyer's office. I was seated when my wife and her lawyer came in. I wanted my gaze to convey a touch of hate, with ample disgust thrown in. She started crying and walking toward me, so apparently it did not work. I told her to back off, which made her cry harder. I began moving back and away from her, which got her to stop coming forward. I will spare everybody the specifics, but I pretty much cursed her out worse than any human has been cursed out before. That fateful night, she had never heard me yell at her. Before that day in the conference room, I had never cursed at her, not even that horrible night. I let it all out, every vile thing I had thought about her, every horrible thing I believed about her, and everything I wished would happen to her. Her lawyer was really shocked. Mine was just a little shocked, but I told him to expect it when he agreed to the meeting. My wife finally grasped that I meant every word and hated her for what she had done to us, what she had done to me. Before the meeting even started, we had to take a 30-minute break to calm down. When we actually did meet, my wife had a request to speak to me without interruption. I couldn't give a word-forward account of what she said if I tried, so I won't. She started out saying she was extremely sorry for everything that has happened. She wished I would talk to her or answer her texts, but accepted that was not going to happen after what I said earlier. Then, she went straight into telling me the land we own could be worth a huge amount of money in the not-too-distant future. Apparently, a company I will not name but everyone has heard of might want to purchase a huge amount of land to build on. The deal would be conditional on getting other landowners to sell, and I'm talking about a ton of acreage that the company would be buying up. Our land is in a zone of the country, X number of miles from a power station, X miles from a major highway, airport, water source, etc. It fits all of their qualifications. Then she said we really need to discuss the land because she cannot sell it without me. That is when I stopped her. I said, "But you could have if I had gone to prison, couldn't you?" It was not a question I knew the answer from her lawyer's expression. Then she came out saying she told Peter not to press charges. Forget me running, I wanted to hit someone, but I cannot hit a woman, and my lawyer would sue me. I did not care that they kept communicating after that night, but it still pissed me off. She said they had to stay in contact because he was the person behind the attempted sale. As the agent, he stands to make a mint. As the owners, we stand to make more. He has government and real estate connections stretching far and wide because of his parents' careers. But when he saw the opportunity to remove me from the equation, he took it. He never showed up anywhere naked. He had clothes in his car, but I did not know. The cops got a very different story than what actually happened, but I'm not surprised. When I got charged, my wife claimed she would not testify, but she could not get me to respond to her. She claimed she was glad I got the charges dropped. That was when I asked if she was glad before she found out I had recorded her and Peter. She did not answer. I let her and her lawyer see the footage I had taken by passing them my phone. I do not think my lawyer wanted me to show it, but they knew it existed, and I could not show it to anyone else yet. I told her that Peter's wife would see that footage eventually. That is when she told me doing so would mean losing out on a ton of money I would never earn working my job. I asked if that was why she cheated money. Greed. I swear she actually told me she cheated for us. The argument that ensued over that comment alone went on for over an hour. We took a lunch break, and I went off to eat alone for an hour just to get away from everyone. In one very odd way, she had given me good news, but it was gift-wrapped in trash. The lawyers loved hearing of the potential sale of land. They knew we would find out about it eventually, and any potential immediate sale I would have to agree to. So, they spilled. I can nix the whole deal if I choose to. It will not cost Peter a cent yet, but it would keep me from making a lot of money. But I cannot make a lot of money unless my soon-to-be ex-wife makes a lot of money too. When I went back to the meeting, my wife pretty much explained how all of this got started. She was doing one of those parade of home showings. Peter's agency was showing 2 of the homes. They knew each other from the same social circles, but he approached her and asked if we were content with our living situation. From there, he explained he knew a consultant specializing in commercial and industrial properties. He laid out his vision, and I guess she saw potential profits. Peter, a well-known figure in our community, could probably negotiate land purchases from locals much more effectively than an outsider. Together, they could buy low and sell high. The deal hinged on our property because of its strategic location. Peter and my soon-to-be ex-wife started engaging with locals and mapping out the project, and then they got involved physically. So, 6 months before I discovered the truth, my marriage was effectively over. She insisted they were just caught up in the excitement over the potential money. She said it was meaningless, it was just sex. I wanted to break my record for cursing, but I tried to remain calm. I asked if she and Peter had used protection. She said they did at first, but since she was on the pill, they stopped. 6 days, I shouted before calling her a revolting, worthless person. She asked what I meant, so I explained that when a man ejaculates inside a woman, his fluids can remain for up to 6 days. The thought of what she subjected me to made me want to vomit. I asked how she would feel if I went to a prostitute, then came home and kissed her. It was disgusting, but it was equivalent to what she did to me. She tried to claim she took showers. I told her unless she could do a headstand in the shower to rinse out, she was still nasty. She wondered why I looked at her with disgust, because she is disgusting. She subjected me to things I don't even want to think about, not to mention what she did with her mouth. Peter can have her, she is tainted with his filth now. I had to get out of there. I wasn't any good for the rest of the day. I went and got drunk for the first time since my dad's cabin party. Part of me should be happy. If things work out, I will be able to pay my lawyers, repay my parents tenfold, and have a lot of money to start over almost anywhere. But the nonsense I've had to agree to in order to get that money makes me sicker than my wife. 3 lawyers drafted an agreement. Our 2 lawyers wrote up an even split divorce. We can't finalize the divorce until the land sells or the deal falls through, but the divorce will go through, and my marriage is over. I'm not in a hurry to be single to marry again. I've effectively ghosted her despite our unfortunate marital status. It's not like I have to see or talk to the deceitful woman, but it bothers me to have any ties with her at all. I can't contact Peter's wife now or in the future. I can't show the footage of my wife to her parents or family, but she has told them we are divorcing and admitted to having an affair. Either way, I got my job back and start next week at a new site. There is talk of having the charges Peter brought against me sealed from my record. My record is clean, thank God. I am still coming to grips with her excuses and her attitude about those excuses. Granted, I would be gone 10 days at a time. At no point did I suspect anything, and our sex life remained constant. Now I wish it had not. At least those in dead bedrooms don't have to worry about kissing a stranger unknowingly. Her putting her tongue in his mouth and then kissing me was the equivalent of forcing a stranger's spit into my mouth. Sick, cheating people like my wife and Peter don't seem to grasp that. I can only imagine Peter's sex life with his wife continued during the affair. I really do wonder if she has any idea she was indirectly involved with my wife at some point. Knowing what I know now, I am glad I punched Peter in the mouth. Still glad I did not kill them or myself, but they are both disgusting, like licking a hobo's rear end in an alley on a pile of garbage. Nasty humans just disgust me now. How she could willingly give her body to two different men back and forth is beyond my comprehension. I had many opportunities to cheat over the years, but did not, for many reasons, loyalty being first and foremost. But the idea of being with someone I do not know, who could have just been with any number of other people very recently, is just insane. Condoms be damned, those things break, and do not protect from everything. There really is no safe sex except monogamy. But it only works when both people are faithful and have not been with half the East Coast. I could have come out far worse than I did. If things go right, we are definitely looking at next year before things can get rolling. I will work like I have done for years, but I will not have any place to come home to. She can stay in the house until the sale and pay all costs. The house will be demolished, so nobody will live there after the sale. The majority of our land is undeveloped. There is no way in hell to move the house out and miles away. When I'm needed to sign paperwork, I will be given notice and I will show up to sign. Then our roads part ways faster than my wife's legs for a 100 bill, and I can move on with cash in hand. But she ruined me, and it is not fair. She cheapened me just by being associated with me. She revealed truths I did not want to know because it all goes back to the first comment on my very first post. I know not every woman is like my wife. I can vouch and say not every guy is a piece of scum like Peter, but I will be damned if those people do not mess it up for the rest of us. Why does it seem two loyal people with a great bond never meet? Almost every post on here is a nice guy or great girl who got involved with a bad person and the consequences of that bad decision. Forget being able to trust again. I cannot get past the idea of ever wanting to trust anyone like that again. Nobody is worth what she put me through, and she sure as hell was not. It pisses me off that he is going to get away with it. I guess the world will have to wait and see if karma can scare him like I did. I cannot really see any reason for another update. She and I will divorce, money will be deposited in my account and her account, and I will never see or speak to her again. That is how it will end. Either way, it is just on hold indefinitely. I want to thank those who gave me advice, told me to keep my mouth shut, and urged me to get lawyers. To those who told me to stay strong, I appreciate you. To those who felt I should end it all, go eat a rock. I will wait a day or two after posting to respond to a few comments, then I will probably fade away. I wish healing for all of you who have been cheated on, just as I wish it upon myself. Until then, final edit, this will be my last comment on the thread. I appreciate those who have had my back. I also appreciate the people that gave me a kick in the ass. To the haters, I support your right to do so, just know I will not be losing any sleep over it. As things stand right now, an April or May sale of the land is most likely. The industrial real estate agent has cleared a lot of the hurdles the company would have to jump through to buy the land. No idea on when clearing and building would start, but I will have my money by that time and will not care. So it is fast-tracked as much as can be, possibly be done. My wife still calls or texts occasionally, but I do not answer, read, or respond. I do not believe she gives a damn about me, nor did she ever. Just giving your body to random people for their gratification is something alien to me. The fact she has the ability to do that with her body disgusts me, and I want no part of her or anyone like her. The fact I value her body more than she actually does truly saddens me, but whatever. I am done with relationships anyway. There is no way in hell I could bring a child into this world with any woman due to my wife's actions. I do want kids, but after the land sale, I may in fact go the surrogate route. After her infidelity, the only thing my wife could possibly bring to the table is children. Women do not need men for kids now, and I sure do not need another unfaithful, disloyal wife to do it. At least I will know my children are being raised morally and ethically. My ex-wife has neither of those things, and with her actions she proved she can never be a good wife. She proved she would be a horrible mother. God help any child that woman brings into this world.